A little while ago, I posted a question to the Elder Scrolls subreddit. Simple question, which game in the series has your favorite UI and why? And the winner, by a comfortable margin, was Oblivion. 21 upvotes, no explanation, just Oblivion for sure. Which, fair enough, but I kept reading, and the more I read, the more I noticed something odd. The Oblivion voters kept using the same words. Character, artwork, charm. One person said it had a journal/ledger feel. Another said the only one with any character. They loved how it looked, the illustrated borders, the parchment textures. The Morrowind voters though, they talked about completely different things. Flexibility, information density, keyboard and mouse support. One commenter said, the only one where you don't need to mod it to make it nice. So here you have two groups of people asked the same question, and they weren't even answering the same question. One group was talking about how their UI looked, while the other was talking about how it worked. And then there was this one comment I couldn't stop thinking about. Someone who grew up with only a PC, no consoles, no internet, said that when they first saw Oblivion's interface, they just couldn't understand it. Not because it was complex, but because it made no sense for the machine they were sitting in front of. They said that they just didn't get it at all. Like, why? Why? That's the right question, and that's the one I want to answer. Because here's what the thread actually showed me. In 30 years of Elder Scrolls games, Bethesda has never shipped a UI that is both beautiful and functional at the same time. Every game got one or the other, never both. That's the gap, and that's what I want my redesign to try to fill. My name is Fadi, I'm a UI UX designer, and in this video, I want to go through the full history of Elder Scrolls interface design, from Arena in 1994 all the way to Skyrim. Figure out what worked, what didn't, and why, and then show you my concept for what Elder Scrolls 6's UI could look like. Before Morrowind, the series used the basic icon bar at the bottom of the screen. It worked, but nobody's talking about it in 2026, so yeah. Morrowind in 2002 though is where things got interesting. Full floating windows. The inventory, the map, the magic, and stat windows, all of them resizable, repositionable, and pinnable wherever you want. Right click and they just all appear at once. Hover over anything and you get an instant stat readout. No clicking, no navigating, the information just comes to you. Playing it, that part still feels genuinely fresh. And I've been trying to think of another RPG that does the pinnable window system, and I genuinely can't name one. And this is a game that was made in 2002, and here we are. But the icon grid became painful at scale. When your inventory was packed, and in Morrowind, it always was, telling the items apart became a sort of guessing game. Icons were too small, too similar, and it looked old, and it did have quite a steep learning curve. Powerful interface, but pretty hard to love. Oblivion in 2006 is where it gets sort of complicated, because Oblivion did win the poll, and after playing it again, I sort of agree. The hand-illustrated borders, the parchment textures, the warm color palette, the amazing world design, it just feels amazing. Everything in it, from the inventory screen to the way the main menu screen is laid out and designed, it just feels like the menu is part of the game and part of the world itself. It really is amazing. Just that. It genuinely, for me, is the best in the series. And then you try to use it on PC and sort of realize, yeah, it does have some issues. The floating windows are gone, and in their place, a single journal with tabs inside of tabs. What Morrowind did in one right click, Oblivion does in 5 inputs minimum. I looked around the line and this came up pretty constantly. players feeling like the game was hiding information rather than surfacing it. One forum thread put it simply: Oblivion made the jump from PC game ported to Xbox to Xbox game ported to PC. The modding community tried its best to release mods for the interface, and it sort of fixed it. Looking further into Oblivion's user interface, you start to learn something, and it's the fact that having a beautiful user interface doesn't directly mean that you'll have a good user experience. The two don't work together, and having one doesn't necessarily mean that you'll also have the other. Skyrim 2011. Bethesda scrapped Oblivion's menus entirely and started over. Cleaner navigation system and simpler layouts, and the HUD-during gameplay is actually the most elegant thing in the whole series. I personally love it, and I generally think it's my favorite. Health, stamina, magicka only appear when they're changing. Show information when it's relevant, and hide it when it's not. That instinct is exactly right. But the inventory is a whole different story. No sorting, no search, 8 hotkey slots. 8 in a game where a serious playthrough involves dozens of spells, shouts, and weapons. At launch, certain key bindings were even hard-coded. Players had to edit the config files manually for basic functionality. SkyUI, the community fix, has been downloaded over 20 million times. That's not a compliment to the modding community. That's a measurement of what's shipped without. Skyrim's interface had functionality without identity. Oblivion had identity without full functionality. And Morrowind had the best functionality of all three, but an aesthetic most modern players will find very hard to love. 30 years, and nobody has put both in the same place at the same time. That's the whole problem right there. So let me be fair about this. Morrowind had great flexibility and PC-first thinking, as well as harbor tooltips, pinnable windows, and was truly ahead of its time. Oblivion, on the other hand, had visual personality that made people feel something. The Reddit poll I did literally proved that it matters a lot. Skyrim had restraint, a contextual HUD that gets out of the way, and the constellation skill tree that to this day is still unmatched. Look at it, it's so beautiful. Anyway, each of these 3 games had a real failure, and sitting down to design a solution, I understood very quickly how hard this problem actually is. Making an interface information-rich without overwhelming the player, making it feel like it belongs to the world without getting in the way of using it. These things pull each other, and the more I worked on this, the more I respected what Bethesda has been doing across these 30 years. Each game solved something the previous one didn't. The gap isn't there because nobody tried. It's there because it's genuinely a hard problem to solve. So here is my attempt. Welcome back, and I hope you enjoyed that one. Now, let me close the video off by saying that I am personally dissatisfied with the result I came out with. I think in my goal of trying to make the user experience as seamless and easy as possible, I ended up making something way too generic for an Elder Scrolls game. And this is what a lot of the Reddit comments on my user interface post echoed. A lot of people said that it does look like a good user interface, but it just doesn't feel like the Elder Scrolls. And I do share that sentiment. It's quite difficult to basically maintain beautiful artworks and the feel of the game while also guaranteeing a good user interface. Now, I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I really appreciate you for sticking up to the end. I also have posted this into my portfolio if you want to see more information and more of the thought process that I had when making the user interface. So feel free to check that out if you want. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And yeah, thank you for watching.